We're all looking for meaningful, engaging activities that we can give our students to do. And we want to make them as student-centered as possible so those students don't have to depend on us. And it's tricky to do that, especially whenever we're doing remote learning, because, for the longest time, we've been so connected to our students face to face. And so this kind of prompts that question: how do we do remote learning in a very student-centered way so we can empower our students to do that meaningful learning and be able to do it on their own? And we've got a fantastic answer for you. Spoiler alert, it has to do with HyperDocs, as you can see in the banner on your screen. So we thought that we would bring in one of the people to talk about when it comes to this topic, when it comes to HyperDocs, because I think all, yeah. Oh, Holly. Because of course we think that, HyperDocs, like it says down at the bottom, there is remote learning gold. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you can use HyperDocs, what HyperDocs are in the first place, and how they connect to remote learning. So thank you so much for joining us on this video. My name is Matt Miller. I'm the author of Ditch That Textbook and the creator of the Ditch That Textbook YouTube channel, where you're seeing this, or you may be seeing it on Facebook. So wherever you are, if you're watching this live, we would love for you to check in the comments and let us know who you are, what you do, where you are, because we'd love to give you some shouts on the screen. And also during this video, if you have ideas or questions, please put those into the chat, because we're going to be pulling those into the video as we go. If you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook later, thank you so much for finding it. And you're going to find all sorts of ideas. We're going to try to keep it into a nice, compact, practical video that will help you out. So I'm going to kick it over to my left, to your right, to Holly real quick for an introduction. And then we're going to introduce our very special guest. So Holly, take it away real quick.
I'm Holly from San Diego and Infused Classroom, and I'm going to give it right to Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Highfill. I'm an instructional tech integration coach in Pleasanton, California, and really excited, co-author of the HyperDoc Handbook, and excited just to talk all things digital lesson design with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got lots of people checking in here. It's good to see everyone here. So we're going to continue to pop these onto the screen. And like I was saying earlier, if you've got any questions for us, or if you've used HyperDocs and have extra things to throw in, then we are definitely happy to share those with everybody else. That's kind of the beauty of this live video thing, is that we're able to kind of, all work together and do this. So it's good to see everybody that's checked in. And so we're super pumped about this topic, right, Holly?
Yeah. And so Lisa, if you just want to start.
Yeah, so I just will tell you, first of all, it's really important to understand what is a HyperDoc and understanding what it's not. It is definitely not any document with a bunch of hyperlinks in it, unless you want to talk literally. So literally, it can be some kind of a document with links, but more importantly, it's a digital lesson. So it has a lesson design behind it, and it's all about that makes it different from anything that I've seen out there. It is the cycle of learning that we promote with HyperDocs is to have students explore first, then we get into the explanation, then the apply. So the cycle of learning being the explore, explain, apply. And we build all of our lessons around that cycle of learning in order to guide a student through an actual learning instruction in the content, not just assigning a task. That would be the apply portion of the lesson, or not just giving them some websites to look at. That would be the explore portion of the HyperDoc. It's a matter of the craft of putting it all together like you do with your in-class lessons. How do you do that, but in a remote setting, and still maintain that high quality instructional design? It is possible depending on how you craft that. That's my brief explanation of what it is. I could show you one. Would you like to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's That's fantastic. And I've also got to say I've seen so much buzz from teachers that are using these, and they absolutely adore them for lots of reasons. The fact that it really does put learning in the students' hands, the fact that it frees them up to go and work individually with students and to actually talk to them and actually develop a person, a conversation and a relationship with them. And so, yeah, anything that you've got to share with us, Lisa, as far as like an example or what this would look like, because I know people are probably really curious to see what that looks like.
I have one right now. It's very timely. I'm going to share my screen with you.
Right.
And it's called One Tree, 1 Year. And anyone who has seen me present on this before, I kind of bring this out every year because Arbor Day is coming up. And and it's something kind of fun to do with students. Now, this was for an elementary classroom. So I encourage you, when you find one, how can you elevate it, revise it, edit to meet your needs? So this one is designed on slides. And I do want to mention that a HyperDoc is a digital lesson. It doesn't mean that it's made a Google lesson. It could be on Microsoft. It could be packaged on a ThingLink. It could be packaged on a website. It's the lesson design behind it that makes it a HyperDoc. These are not called hyper slides. So just because it's packaged on a slide does not mean it's a hyper slide. A HyperDoc is, the meaning of that is a digital lesson. So this has an engage portion in the beginning. And all of you who would like this lesson, we'll give you the bit.ly. It's bit.ly 1 Tree, 1 Year. And I encourage you to check out this lesson just to watch the 2 videos at the beginning and the engage. It's such a beautiful video, and it actually inspired this entire lesson. And when you go through this really needs to be changed for a remote setting, because we did this in class together. We watched the video, and then we talked about what did we notice in this video. So I would take this out and I would alter this, and I would say, what do you notice? And allow students to either make a copy of this HyperDoc so they can write right in these text boxes, or maybe I would give instruction, a little more instruction, and say, write this in your in the chat stream in Google Classroom or in your writer's notebook, or maybe a link to a form or something like that. So we have to really, when we see these HyperDoc lessons, you have to revise and edit. And I'm just mentioning that there, but that video is amazing. Then we get to the Explore. In this lesson, there are a couple parts to this, and it's read alouds. And actually, the read aloud is posted on the very next slide. This HyperDoc is in the middle of a little bit of revising and editing here, because you can click here and go to YouTube. But with young students, you have the ability to package these to make it really effective. So you're not having kids leave the lesson and go to YouTube. You can put the video right here. So I'm going to eventually revise and edit this page. I wanted to show you what that would look like, though. If you're uncomfortable with kids going to YouTube, go with this and then change your instructions from that last page. Now there's another Explore, because if I'm talking about trees and the personification of trees, which is where I'm really trying to get to, then we have the Giving Tree is a great thing to put in here too, with some guiding questions from my reader's workshop. And then I also have the video in here as well. Into the explain portion, though, this is when we get into the Planet Earth's episode of Seasonal Forest. Now, this is a really long video, so I definitely could do some chopping down of this video. I could say watch only this much if the students were sophisticated enough to know when to pause, or maybe they are interested in watching the whole thing. But they're just able to record their new learnings about trees in their communities. I didn't give a required write 4 things you learned. I don't want to stifle their learning with that. I want to leave it really open in terms of that. That was the explain portions, because while we talked about personification and this one is really about how do trees affect a whole entire community. Then getting into the seasonal forest, that's the explain. That's the science behind trees, which is so important. But then comes the apply. And I'll tell you something, I talk about this apply all the time and I leave it. It really was not my favorite apply. It didn't work out so well when I did this live. So this is a lesson I would go back in and maybe change this. Maybe you like it. If you're wanting to integrate some writing into your work with the kids, or just let them be creative. We tried to make tree haikus. And then for the apply, we even gave instructions to, I wanted their tree haikus to be on images of trees. And then we used Canva or Google Draw or Adobe Spark Post to create those images. And then the task was to post them on a Padlet and share them, because that's such an important part. I went from explaining to applying. This is what you're going to do. Here's more instructions. Notice the instructions are very clear. There's step 1, step 2, step 3. There's not over teaching in this HyperDoc. It's very precise instruction, so it kind of leaves it open. So kids did it differently. And then how do you turn it in? How's that workflow going to work for you? Where is that share? Why are they doing it? If it only gets turned into a teacher, nobody else gets to see the work. So I do love some of these that are going. Some just wrote them on the Padlet. And you know what? I'm totally good with that. Some actually did do the images, which is really beautiful. As I've rethought this and collaborated with other teachers, though, we've talked about, this was my dream, is that we would follow a tree for 1 year. Because I really love watching a tree through the seasons. And if you have a special tree, maybe on your school campus, or be careful, though, right now with remote learning, a lot of kids will be like, well, I have a special tree in my backyard. And it's important that we make sure, if you're posting your special trees collaboratively on a Google map, you don't really want kids giving out their locations of that. Oh, look, someone put their post on here. Someone posted a tree, maybe. So I've left this open. So I really wanted trees from all over the world captured on this, because when I got to travel to Australia, I saw trees that I'd never seen before. And when I saw pictures of these trees from Hawaii, I thought, there are kids who've never seen these trees and might never see them. How cool would that be to share the special kind of trees from around the world and give kids that perspective of trees? And so this kind of hasn't taken off. Maybe I would change that up. Then the extend is the wish tree. If you've not read Catherine Applegate's Wish Tree, it'll make sense then why I added that personification of the giving tree in here, because the wish tree is a very special book that a tree has feelings and emotions and communicates it. So to build up that kind of thinking, do trees have feelings? This is a very special book. It really gets into a lot of equity issues around it. It's a wonderful book to read. So I could see this being a pre-lesson to doing a class read of the wish tree. And then, of course, the last extend. I'm not playing this for you. You have to try out this HyperDoc and play this video, because this is the best tree video ever. It's a little jungle boogie. So that is a quick walkthrough of what it looks like for an explore, explain, apply. It's spelled out. I'm so sorry. I should spell this out better for you. It's one tree, the number 1, TREE, and the number 1, YEAR. So 1 tree, 1 year.
I fixed it.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any questions about this lesson?
Lisa.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to jump in and say, since Matt and I have been kind of finding out a lot more about the great things about Microsoft, and although Buncee is not a Microsoft product per se, Buncee are also slides, and Buncee has the ability to put in 360 images. And so as I was learning about them the other day, I'm like, is anyone using these for HyperDocs?
Yes, they are.
People said, yeah. And so that's really exciting.
Yes.
And then Microsoft has the ability, has Sway, which are these tiles that you can make. They're like slides, but it would make a really interesting HyperDoc. And then one other thing about Microsoft, if you're doing it in a PowerPoint slide, they have immersive reader. So for those kids, I saw Monica, or no, I think it was Heather, said that you could put in audio directions in Google Slides, which is really cool. But in PowerPoint, you have the ability to put in immersive readers. So I feel like the Microsoft world saw that your book says doing it in Google Docs, and now we can open our arms and say, come, make these in Microsoft products. Yes,
for sure. You can do it in anything, and I think that's really important. But I really want to get to the key about why remote learning and why do a HyperDoc and not just your Google Classroom, because I think I get a lot of questions about that lately.
Yeah.
And there are so many layers. I just talked to you about the cycle of learning on this HyperDoc. I didn't get to all of the special needs that are built into this that meet specific students' needs. That's for another day. I'm going to bring that up. But one thing that I really want to emphasize here is that a lot of teachers right now are using a product like Google Classroom or Canvas or an LMS to push out their assignments. And I know it's so hard remotely. A lot of students struggle with executive functioning. So that organization, and what do I do, and where do I turn it in, and what are the instructions? And so what a HyperDoc does is it packages it all in one place. It packages your instructions, your expectations, your workflow, and allowing kids to walk through a lesson, pacing it. You can even put directions on how long the Explorer might take. Maybe put 1 day for the Explorer and put day 2. You can be really explicit on that workflow. But to have it go in with one link, so when students know that they've got this assignment to do, it's not going through a Google Classroom stream and trying to find where are all the links to this assignment, where's the reading and where's the turn in and where's the Padlet. It's all packaged in one place.
Yeah.
For the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. So Lisa, the HyperDoc that you talked about, so that was an example of one of the variations of HyperDocs, one of the templates, so to speak, and that was the Explore, Explain, Apply HyperDoc. And so if people were watching this, they probably picked up on those little tags on your slides. But I was wondering if, now that we've seen an example of that and seen what it looks like with the content in it, maybe you could break that one down little by little. I've actually got the Explore, Explain, Apply framework up on the screen, so I can put that up there if you want to talk them through it just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. And I do have the larger one open as well. Yeah, you've got that one. That one's perfect. We have our basic one too that, and I'll explain that. But basically with an Explore, this cycle of learning, I first studied this because of the work of Ramsey Musallam. And I was changed ever since I heard him speak about this, probably in 2011. This completely changed my instruction, this shift right here. Allowing students to explore before I explain the content is a critical shift in the way our students experience learning and the way I experience teaching. I was always like, sit down, let me explain to you this concept. And I was wondering why every day the kids would come back into class and they wouldn't remember it. It was like Groundhog Day. But when I shifted it and I let them explore the concept and make meaning themselves, and then I started to ask them, what do you think this concept is about? You tell me, and ask for that first formative check-in. It allowed me time to not only check in with all my learners, it gave me that formative information about how well do they know it. Does my explain need to go into great depth and explanation, or do they already have this concept and I can actually take them to a higher level of understanding in that concept? Completely change the way I explain content. I'm not saying give up a lecture. In a remote session, if you are recording lessons, a lecture per se, the explain portion of the HyperDoc template is where that explain would go, where that video explanation. It is also very, very key here is, are you just giving assignments to kids, or is there instruction during this remote learning time? And right now, we're all in triage mode. We are all just trying to scramble and figure this out. But I'm really working with teachers about thinking about, what would this look like if we were still doing this kind of learning in the fall? How can we start to shift to instruction versus assigning? And I really believe that this kind of a template helps us ease into that shift of getting away from just assigning a list of tasks. And where does that instruction fit in? It fits in right there in the middle of that template in the explain portion. And then comes the apply. The apply is really important. It's not just summarize what I said and tell me. It really has the opportunity to be authentic. Show me what you know is my favorite word to describe the apply section. Now that I've taught you all this, now show me what you know. I love to offer choice in how you get to show that. I love to integrate all sorts of subjects into that. Show me what you know, whether it be writing or whether it be calculations or building something. In this remote environment, I'm finding that going from online to offline is still so possible, with students building things in their house and then taking photos of it and showing that product in a multiple ways. And you can kind of package all that, how you want that turned in, how you want that show to happen. So that's kind of a run through about that. Explore, explain, apply. If you follow those steps, it just sets you on the road to moving to instruction versus assigning.
Yeah.
It's student facing. And that's the most important words in the HyperDoc thing, is that it's a student facing lesson, and it puts the student at the center of their learning.
Sure does. Yeah, these HyperDocs are not for teachers, unless, of course, I'm training teachers. They're for a teacher to create and give to students. So that's a very important part of that. And that's where I kind of talk about not putting too many instructions and not over teaching in this situation, because I want kids to think for themselves and have to figure it out. But I also don't want them too confused about my expectations. It's a nice balance there.
Yeah. We're getting a handful of comments coming in on Facebook asking the same thing, because we just put that up on the screen. And so the questions that keep coming in is, where can I find that template? Can you please share that template? We really need to see that template. So I'm going to put that banner up there, Lisa.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. This is the website where you can find the template. And Lisa, do you want to tell them a little bit about the site?
Yes, I'm really excited about the site. Can I share it, the screen?
Yes, totally.
So we just opened and launched our new website, the HyperDocs Academy, just this week. Hold on a second. I'm a little slow with my share. We're so excited. This has been a project in the works for probably 2 years now. We've had this idea for longer than that. We're so excited about this new site, though. It's our same URL, hyperdocs.co. Only here, we have built in an academy. And all of our courses right now are free for you. You can go to courses and go to remote teaching, free courses, getting started, or see all of our courses. But it's really exciting if you go to remote teaching. You can go to our Building Confidence to Teach Remotely, and we have a series of lessons here. Now, when you first open this, you'll see there's locks on all of these, but because I'm signed into my account, all you have to do is make an account. All of these will be available to you. So here's our course description for the entire course, and this course has 4 lessons in it. And so it's kind of a neat way to get really in-depth. Look at, here I am all the way through that template. The explore, explain, apply, and how to begin with it, how to turn that template into products like these. These are all linked on here for you to have and to revise and edit, for you to create your own. It kind of goes through exactly what I just talked about, that explore, explain, apply, and how to shift this for remote learning. So we're super excited about that. There's a lot of resources on that portion. But if you go to find, you can also go to templates. And while it's not as pretty yet, we're still working on these templates and getting our images up. We decided just to open up and let you get a feel for what the site looks like right now. We do have a blog with tons of information. If you're just learning and just coming to HyperDocs and wanting to know more, these blogs will be very helpful to you, I think. There we are, HyperDoc templates for getting started, right in our blog page. So we're super excited. Thank you for letting me share that. That's been something that we're so proud to, oh, look at you guys.
Another way you can learn more about HyperDocs. This is a fantastic book. No, Lisa didn't pay us to do this. We're just really
you're so sweet.
Yeah, the HyperDoc Handbook, which you can find anywhere where you find books. It's a fantastic, and of course, not just Lisa. It was also Kelly Hilton and Sarah Landis, the 3 of them, put this together. And see, look at this. I don't have notes in my stuff very much, but I definitely do here. I want to know what this is.
You know, we've been finding some people have been purchasing it and saying it's kind of nice to de-screen. And so I hadn't even thought about that. I'm like, oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
To learn a little bit of the philosophy behind it, de-screened is kind of nice.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to jump into some of the comments that I haven't been able to put up because they needed a little bit more focus. Oh, there's Heather just snuck that in as I was trying to put up somebody else's. Very well loved, post its glory. See, I'm not the only one. Jean says, HyperDocs have been such a great teaching design for me, and I'm so glad I found out about them before all this remote learning occurred. And Jean also says she loves her book. And Chris has it too. Let's see, there's a couple of other ones up here. Jennifer asked, can you put slides and self-grading tools, etc., into the HyperDocs? Lisa?
Yeah, so can you put slides? Anything can be linked into a HyperDoc. So sometimes I package them on a Google Doc or a website. And so I do think about how many clicks away I want it to go. So if I'm packaging on a Google Doc and I want them to go to slides, I could put a link, but that means they're leaving that doc. And sometimes, depending on the age of the students, if they get too many tabs going, they don't know how to get back to the original doc. That might change the way I package. So I might do a website instead where I can embed the slides right there, and the workflow kind of goes in a vertical way. So that's always something to think about as the designer. Self-grading tools, yes, I love to embed forms in my HyperDocs all over. That's one of my favorite ways to collect work or to get that first formative assessment check-in or a quiz at the end.
Or a pear deck.
Yes.
A self-guided pear deck would work really well.
For sure. HyperDoc is an amazing pairing with HyperDocs.
There, you did. Let's throw a couple more of these in here, and then I've got another question for you.
Yes.
Here's more brilliance from Heather. She's saying, I love this idea. Chances are, this was about the explore part.
Oh, yes.
She said, chances are students are clicking around and exploring anyway. So just allow it as part of the learning process.
Yes. And then ask them, what did you discover? Nobody, sometimes we don't ask that. Like, have an expectation for that exploration. You know, and know that you're going to be asked that at the end. They are great to share that. Yeah,
definitely. We got this comment from Les, which I thought was such a good point. And this is something, when you get to the full-on HyperDoc template, this is a big part of it. He says, one of the things I keep forgetting on my HyperDocs is the extension activity. And so let's circle back to that in just a second. I had one more comment that I wanted to put up here. This is Linda. She says, so grateful for this video. Quick learning for a fantastic teaching tool that I can use during stations or on substitute days when we get back into school. It totally fits for that.
Yes.
Or every day.
Yeah. And I didn't have to spend hours upon hours to get the new idea. This is great. So Lisa, you were talking earlier about the Explore, Explain, Apply template. And so that's something, I was just thinking about this very template recently, and I was thinking that this Explore, Explain, Apply seems like it's a really good maybe replacement for lecture worksheet quiz, or at least, a way to kind of rethink that whole thing. And so Explore, Explain, Apply is one version of the template, and like your graphic showed, it's sort of a subset of the entire HyperDocs template. These are all templates, again, that you can find on the website, which you can see down on the screen. Did you want to tell everybody just real quickly, like, what some of those other steps are, or should we go?
Look what I have ready queued up here for you.
Oh, she does. That's right. Boom. Here it is. There it is.
Of course I do. This is the one. This is actually what we based our whole book on. So our book is we created a whole section for how do you plan the engage portion. This is our complete HyperDoc template, beginning with engage, then explore, then explain, then apply, share, reflect, extend. And so our book is divided into these parts, and we gave ideas and tips and instruction about what would go in an engage section and why would we do that for our students. Now, notice what's at the heart of this lesson still: explore, explain, apply. We just added those pieces in. Now, do we do this every time we do a lesson? No, not always. Sometimes I do a lot of this live, and my apply portion is the HyperDoc. And so I kind of build that piece to it. But one thing that we forget often in our lessons, and I love that the template sort of keeps me on track, we forget to reflect with our students. And I really think that that is the icing on the cake of learning, that when you reflect, you're really having that metacognitive piece that makes learning sticky. And this is what they're going to hold on to when they have to go back and make that cognitive connection between what they explored, what you explained, how they applied it, and how that's going to affect them. that piece, when I have that in this template, I'm really happy because it kind of makes me do that. So that is our extended one. It has a description, and this is on the website, but these instructions in here give you a tip or advice about what to put in that. So all you need to do to use these templates, you don't have to ask for permission to edit. You just go to File and make a copy of it. And then you can edit and take out all of this text. And then you take out all of this and change the colors and take out that image and build this so that it looks like, something that you really want to
Lisa,
show. Yes.
Also, file download is a Microsoft Word docx.
Thank you so much. So you would be able to go to File and Download. Yes. So thank you so much there we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So really important to know how to take these. This goes for every HyperDoc you see. So that slides one I made, anytime you come across them, know that is the method for how you give them, because HyperDocs will always be free. We started Teachers Give Teachers alongside of HyperDocs for that very purpose, because we really believed in a sharing collaborative culture for teachers. That said, I'm fine with other sites, but that's how we chose to run HyperDocs. And sure enough, it's grown to be quite a community of sharing people. If you've ever been to our Facebook group, you know it is active and alive these days, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we just had on the screen there was kind of like the HyperDoc framework, so to speak. We've got all of the different steps. The Explore, Explain, Apply was right in the middle of it. So if somebody's watching this and they want to use that framework, like, you don't have to necessarily even put it into a document in a certain way or anything. That's just kind of a smart way to think through lesson design in the first place. But if they want to put it into a document like that, or slides or whatever, that's a nice self-contained place where students can do the learning, right?
For sure. And then you can change it up and design it. I mean, that's kind of the creative part to it, which is really fun. Kind of brings a little creative flair. How do you engage students with more than just a white page and a list of tasks? That was always my challenge. I kept showing my son, who was in high school at the time, which one would you rather do, this one or this one? And every time he did not choose the white page with solid text. So
imagine that. How crazy.
Yeah.
So I have one more quick question, and then I'm done. You had said that HyperDocs will always be free, and that there are HyperDocs available for free. So if someone's watching this and they're going, I love this framework, I love all of the steps, I don't have time to make one of those, or I'm overwhelmed right now and I just don't think that I can do it. Are there any of them out there? To which we would say, we're going to send you to Lisa's Teachers Pay Teachers account, right?
No. Oh my God.
He's setting you up.
I know.
Just kidding.
Kind of, I would never charge you for a HyperDoc. And if you see them being sold, a lot of people let me know that, or just quietly let people know that that's not the HyperDoc way. We have a website called teachersgiveteachers.net. Now, I say that, and right now it's down with our big move. It will be back any day now. We are working it out. We're working with different developers on getting our database back up. But we have thousands and thousands of people who are turning in HyperDocs for free at teachersgiveteachers.net. That will always be there and always available for you. In the meantime, if you go to hyperdocs.co, there's a tab for samples. And so we're hoping to tide you over for a couple of days and look at our samples page. We packaged them by subject, but we also packaged a couple of very large docs with primary and secondary examples to kind of give you a taste for it right now as you're getting to know them. We share on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @TSGiveTS. So that's an amazing way if you're a Twitter person. And our HyperDoc group, which I did mention, that's where I think probably the most sharing is going on right now. It's our HyperDoc group is just called HyperDocs. And it is a very, very active group of people who are not just sharing their HyperDocs, but they're talking about them and saying, who wants to make one with me? Who wants to collaborate? Or I delivered this one and it was a flop. What did I do wrong? And before I can even get in and answer that, probably there's been about 10, 15 people who will jump in and answer your questions. So it's super supportive group. I say they are the nicest people on social media that I've ever met.
So Lisa, I want to say two things. First, when I visit schools and I see teachers not teaching with HyperDocs, and I hyperventilate a little bit because I see that they could have this much more organized system. And they're doing exactly what you said. They're putting stuff on Google Classroom, which is fine, but there's topics and there's all these things and they're going all over the place and the kids don't know where they're going. So that's why I hyperventilate a little bit.
Right.
But one of the things that I've become really fond of is this, and I hope we can talk about this Thursday. We're going to have you on again, and I hope we can talk about this. I really become fond of the exploratory text set and giving students this time to explore in a doc with just links.
Yes.
And that's what people are getting wrong, is that HyperDocs is not a doc with links. It is actually gone through a full lesson design, which you've spoken about.
Yes.
But maybe we can difference.
I would. Oh yeah, that's great.
Next time.
I was right along with you because there's a lot of misconceptions about HyperDoc lessons, and I really want to address that next time about what is it about this revise and edit piece to it. Or it's not like teachers pay teachers. This is where it's like fundamentally not even, it's apples to oranges, because there you go and you buy a lesson and then you give it to your kids. HyperDocs is not like that. You find one that you like and then you revise and edit it to meet your kids' needs, because I maybe have made that one tree one year. I don't know who your students are. You need to personalize it to the people in front of you. And I want to talk Thursday about why that is a crucial element that makes these way more than a digital worksheet. And I will definitely show that multimedia text set stuff too, because it's gold also.
Yes.
And for Michael, who's doing a thing, start your PD next week saying that HyperDocs are not docs with links, because that's what everyone's going to walk in thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
or not
right.
walk in, but zoom in.
Zoom in. That's right.
Sorry.
Digitally walk in. So, all right. Well, this has been fantastic. If you're watching this live, we do have another video coming up on Thursday with Lisa. She's been so generous with her time. She's going to be back. So if you're watching live right now and you have any questions we want to ask Lisa on Thursday, go ahead and drop those in the chat as we're wrapping up here. If you're watching this on the replay, then definitely do go back onto the YouTube channel, the Ditch That Textbook YouTube channel, and search for HyperDocs, and you're probably going to find that video. You don't have to wait like we do. So for those of you that did join live, so many good thoughts and ideas thrown in. Great questions. You all have been fantastic. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, the Ditch That Textbook YouTube channel, I'd love it if you would go down and click that subscribe link to be able to watch more videos like that, as well as the HyperDocs Facebook group and the Infused Classroom Facebook group. All of those were continually, the three of us here are all sharing ideas out on those things. So if you want to find all of the things, that's the place to go. So any last words real quick as we wrap up, ladies?
No, I thank you so much for this opportunity. I think we all go together like peanut butter and jelly. So I love that we can share these different aspects. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Be safe. We'll see you later.